Hey everyone, so this is another lecture in the interview communication series. Today we are going to focus on tech and coding interviews. Just to make sure the things we are going to focus is more on the communication side, and communication doesn't mean only English, but how you can navigate through tough situations, how you should structure your communication while giving coding interviews, right? And not on which technical concepts you should study. So that's not the focus. So with that said, let's start. As you can see, the topic is moving the needle, difference between okay and good answers in tech, and especially during coding interviews. We'll also take some examples, one or two mock interviews that were available on YouTube, and try to analyze them as we always do, go into the psyche of the interviewer, and towards the end, try to get to a standard flow that almost everyone follows when they're trying to give coding interviews. So let's start. Great. So again, the standard question, what is the purpose of a coding interview? This is the next 10 minutes we'll spend on understanding the psyche of the interview, what is going in the head of the interviewer. So what is the purpose of a tech or coding interview? Take a pause here, stop the video, and try to come up with an answer. Okay. So I hope till now you must have come up with an answer, something like tech skills check करना, coding skills check करना, and code कैसे लिखते हैं, languages के अंदर comfort क्या है, more or less, right? Partially, but let me put it in a structured way. So they want to see how you think about a problem. And this is definitely applicable for freshers, people who are applying for the first time in their life, going as fresh developers. Definitely they want to see how you think. They are expecting to see how you analyze a problem, how you go about solving an unknown problem. Can you perform some trade-offs? Can you perform trade-offs between performance and efficiency? Right. Towards the end, there will always be a hard problem which they are not expecting you to solve efficiently, but they want to see how are you handling unexpected hard problems. Are you able to communicate, right? And that's why communication matters the most. Even in coding interviews, you need to communicate throughout the interview with the interviewer, right? Your basics are great or not, algo, data structures, right? And that's why many of the questions are on the big O optimization, efficiency of the program and all that. They don't revolve around कि आपने exact language क्या use कर रहे हो, right? And obviously आप जो भी language के अंदर proficiency claim कर रहे हो, right? Python, C, whatever that is, उसके अंदर आप actually में code लिख पा रहे हो नहीं लिख पा रहे हो, and how beautiful your code is. It need not be very clean, but if you are able to write a decently clean code at that point of time with a brief bit of comments and all that, full points. Now, what is not the purpose of the interview? It's not to see whether you know all the answers or not, right? Obviously, the first few questions are always simple, right, which are standard questions. So if you're not prepared for that, that's a red flag कि ये तो कुछ भी नहीं देख के आए हैं. But it's not to see कि आपको सारे के सारे problem statements आते हैं कि नहीं आते. It's not to see whether you can solve them immediately or not, and that too with efficient methods, right? Especially the harder problems that come towards the end. And it's not to see whether you can code perfectly or not, right? Again, mostly true for freshers. So you need to understand, again, the psychology of the person taking your interviews. This is what they are looking for. This is not what they are looking for. Again, जब मैं ये बोल रहा हूँ कि they are not looking for कि whether you know the answers or not, that does not mean you go unprepared, right? That's not what I mean. What that means is they are not expecting you to know the answers of every problem statement they are giving you. So just to summarize, you need to show your thinking process. You need to show them your basics of data structures, are sound. You need to show them you can write a somewhat decent code in whichever language you have claimed to proficiency in, and you need to show that you can think about efficiencies, right? You can think how to go about writing an efficient algorithm. Great. So a quick question. Many a times during coding interviews, during tech interviews, there are theoretical questions also. So theoretical questions can be as simple as what is hashing, right? Now take a pause here. If you are going to give tech interviews, I'm sure you're familiar with the concept of hashing. If you're not familiar with the concept of hashing, try to pick any other concept, maybe in data structures, something like that, and try to answer that. Okay, I'm sure you must have thought of an answer. The difference between an okay answer and a good answer. Obviously the bad answer is कि आपको concept ही नहीं पता था, आपने कुछ भी बोल दिया और आपने बोल दिया कि hashing is basically used in Python, right? But the difference between okay answer and good answer is दो examples नहीं पूछे हैं आपको hashing के, right? But here when you are saying that hashing is a process to create hash tables, to store data efficiently and all that, and उसके आपने terms को use कर लिए हैं, to give examples, either give examples or tell why is hashing used or tell where is hashing used, right? So go beyond the question to show your understanding of theoretical concepts. It can be binary tree, heap, or whatever is that. If someone asks you describe a binary tree, do not only give the theoretical definition, go beyond that. Answer also कि क्यों use करते हैं या कहाँ use करते हैं, or an example, whatever is convenient in that particular situation. That's the difference between an okay answer and a good answer. Obviously bad answer is कि आपको पता ही नहीं और आपने कुछ भी random बोल दिया. Now we all are worried about our English in the interview, right? Now here let's quickly spend next 5 to 6 minutes on some basic quick English tips. Now the idea I'm trying to tell you here is, as we have discussed that English matters, but it's not an English test. It's not that आपकी English की proficiency के ऊपर आपको mark किया जा रहा है. There is no need for you to use fancy words. There is no need for you to become uncomfortable and make longer sentence structures. Keep it simple, keep it comfortable. That's all what it matters. But there's a difference between making blunders and making mistakes. Making mistakes is okay, but making blunders is not okay. And that's why make sure you are using at least the simple present tense, simple past tense, and simple future tense correctly. I'll not go into the details. You know about these theoretical concepts. Mostly you talk about things that you do, about your personality, about how do you handle a problem statement in simple present tense. Past tense is very much used in interviews, talking about your past experience, past projects, past situational questions, right? And future tense is always about how will you handle this particular situation, where do you see yourself in 5 years, and all those kind of things. Again, only the simple tenses. If you are able to avoid mistakes in that, you're fine. I'm not asking you to basically practice your present perfect tense or all other kind of tenses, right? So keep it simple, keep it good, great. Some of the mistakes that I've seen people making in interviews: one, using inconsistent verb forms, right? That means past tense की जगह आपने present tense use कर लिया. We were on the way to school, suddenly the sky turned dark. Yeah, right? Similarly, we were on the way to school, suddenly make sure आपका जो tense है वो अपने verb form के अंदर consistent हो, inconsistency नहीं हो, and that's one of the most common mistake people do. So this is first, practice this. You only have 10 days for an interview, maybe 15 days, a month. You do not have time, and there is no need for you to focus on getting every tense right. But at least get these tenses right. If you have time, सब कुछ कर लिया, सब कुछ हो गया, obviously you can work on other tenses, but that's not the priority. The priority is to avoid blunders in these cases. Second, people confuse present tense forms, right? Now, As I told you, you are not giving a grammar test, right? Technically आपको बोलना चाहिए I have been working in this company for 3 years. But अगर आप उसकी जगह I am working in this company for 3 years भी बोल दोगे, nobody is going to mind, right? But अगर आप I work here की जगह, right, या I am working in this company जगह आप बोलो कि I working in this company, this is a blunder, right? So just to summarize, simple present tense is used for current habitual actions. Present continuous is used for things that are happening right now. No need to focus on present perfect continuous tense or present perfect tense. Present perfect tense की जगह has verb की जगह आप simple past भी use कर लोगे, no one will mind. Unless and until you are writing this in an English grammar test. Again, an interview is not an English grammar test. So make sure आपका verbal communication confident हो and आप blunders avoid कर रहे हो. I just gave you an example of blunders versus a mistake, right? Saying I am working in this company for 3 years is okay, it's a mistake, nobody will mind. Saying I working in this company, right, for 3 years is a blunder. Similarly, with the past tense form, and past tense is the most common tense that you will use in your interviews, and this is also the tense जहाँ पे लोग सबसे ज़्यादा गलतियाँ करते हैं, people make mistakes, right? Again, past perfect and past perfect continuous, no need to go into that, you would rarely use it, but make sure the simple past tense जहाँ पे हम past form of the verb use करते हैं वो आप practice करके जा रहे हो multiple times, right? I don't think you would need बाकी 3 tenses here, बट सिंपल पास्ट टेंस में मिस्टेक मत करना. दैट साउंड्स लाइक कि आपका कम्युनिकेशन बहुत वीक है. वी नीड टू गेट रीच एन एक्सेप्टेबल लेवल ऑफ कम्युनिकेशन फॉर नाउ. This happens when people are making mistake in past tense, when people are when I ask them to talk about their experiences, college times and all that, they start with past tense, but what happens is धीरे धीरे वो present tense में वापस आ जाता है. Right, and that happens very commonly. And if you are one of those who make this mistake, make sure keep tenses consistent. Present and past के बीच में switch नहीं करना. And this happens mostly when you're talking about past and आप 3 sentences, 4 sentences के बाद you come back to present tense. Make sure you're not doing that. People do that oh, I was in college 3 years back, I did computer science and also took some courses in electronics. It went well. I was a great student. Then they started switching in present tense. My friends and I are very close. We do a lot of projects. One of the project is this. So make sure you are not doing this. If you're talking about past events, keep the past tense going. Right. Again, as I told you, these are quick English tips, mistakes that people often do, and that's where they are getting judged, right? You're not getting judged. आपने अगर past perfect tense नहीं अच्छे से use किया, I won't judge you. Last one, future. Future is very simple. I will do this, I shall do this, and all those kind of things. Just one recommendation here. When there are 2 phrases, right? I will hire you full time when your degree will be complete is incorrect. It sounds right, but it is incorrect. In the second phrase, you use present tense. I will hire you full time when your degree is complete. Right. So there are 2 things happening here. In the main clause, the verb is in the future, but in the second clause, the verb shifts to present tense. So you will say, I'll join you when my degree will be complete. No, I will join you when my degree is complete, right? So this is one thing. Again, a bit of nuanced, but I would advise you to make sure, because this is a sentence that you will be using when you will be joining us and that kind of thing. So this is again a mistake you can avoid while using future tense. So to summarize, make sure that you are not focusing on each and every aspect of grammar. Avoid blunders, use simple tenses, simple present, simple past, simple future, right? Keep it simple, keep it comfortable, but make sure you are not switching tenses. When you're talking about past, use the past tense, do not switch to the present tense. when you're talking about present things, do not switch to the past tense. Make sure you're practicing past tense. As I told you, simple past में सबसे ज़्यादा गलतियाँ होती हैं, and that's where sometimes people judge you that आप नहीं बोल पा रहे हो, right? As simple past tense. So pick up some standard questions in interview, like tell me about your college life, tell me about the project you did in your college, and these kind of things, and try to see you are able to use past tense consistently. Great. Now that brings us to another part, non-English part of the things. What are some steps or things you should do during your coding interview? Your coding interview is going on. What are some steps that you should do during the coding interview? Take a pause here, pause the video, think, and then we'll discuss them. Okay, great. So I'm sure you must have come up with an answer like, we should ask questions, we should keep speaking, we should not focus on the optimization first, and other nuanced answers. So let's put a structure to it. So this is a very awesome chart which shows normally how the coding interview goes, or how you should approach a coding interview, right? You don't have to follow each and every step, but this is largely the universe of a coding interview, right? So I'll just go through this chart with you so that you know what to do, what not to do, and then we'll go into the details of each and every step. And I'm sure you are familiar with almost all of these steps, right? But it's good to be organized. So first is obviously listen. You have to pay very close attention to any information that the interviewer is providing, right? It's very important because sometimes we take it casually, we don't make notes, and एक बहुत ही important information miss हो जाती है, right? हमसे, and उसकी वजह से हमारा पूरा problem statement बिगड़ जाता है. And this is a stage where you can ask questions also, clarifying questions. कि okay, did you mean this or that? Take examples, right? Make sure your examples are good, trying to basically take examples and solve them using brute force. Brute force is not the most efficient method, but at least that will give you a solution that works. And every interviewer, every techie wants to see that at least. What's the worst? The worst thing is कि आप solution ही नहीं सोच पा रहे हो, and that's the worst thing that can happen to you. It's good to have a non-optimized brute force solution कि ये तो ऐसे कर ही सकते हैं. It's not the most efficient method. Let's see if we can optimize it. Then once you have come up with a brute force method, try to optimize it. Try to basically use different optimization techniques. Try to see if you want to change example. Right. Walk through your approach in detail. Try to basically take the interviewer through your approach. Right. Implement it. Code it, and then try to run it. If the interviewer wants to run it, try to run it, but you can write a beautiful code with comments and all that, right? So take a screenshot of this chart. It's a great chart. Almost everyone follows it, right? Now let's go into the detail. So listen carefully, right? The first step is you need to listen carefully for clues. Obviously you are sitting in an interview, you are listening carefully, but you need to make sure you are listening carefully for clues. For example, let's say the first question is, given two arrays that are sorted, find this, right? Now the important information is that the arrays are sorted. Right? One way I do about it, I always reiterate the problem statement, right? Just to confirm, the problem statement is this. And if the interviewer says yes, that means that I am on the right track. The problem statement I have stated is correct, right? You can ask clarifying questions here, right? If you have clarifying questions on arrays, right? If you want to basically ask about the entries of arrays, so you can ask clarifying question. After you have asked clarifying question, ideally you can again restate the problem, that just to clarify, this is what the final problem statement is, right? So make sure you are listening for clues, and then going to the step 2, which is draw an example. Right. Now, example has to be specific. Example has to be sufficiently large, and make sure your example is not a special case. Right. Because if you're taking a very special case in an example, that means your brute force method or any algorithm that you will come with, the interviewer will catch that this is not going to work for all cases, right? And here you can ask questions to the interviewer while you are designing your example. So let me give you a problem statement. If I tell you that you have to find the number of elements that are common between two sorted distinct arrays, right? Once you have clarified everything, take the first example that I have seen. Set A is, array A is 1, 2, 15, 9. Array B is 2, 12, 13, 20. Right. Now this, something wrong with this example that I've taken. What's wrong? So one is obviously the example is clearly showing that I have not listened to the problem statement carefully. The problem statement clearly states that the arrays are sorted. Is the array 1 in an example 1 is sorted? No, 1, 12, 15, 9 is not a sorted array. Blunder. Now even if it's 19, right, it's too special. Why is it too special? I can't see any speciality in this. This is special because I have picked two arrays of the same size. That was not a condition in the problem statement. That's why this is special, and it's a bit smallish, right? A better example would be that's written A array is 1, 12, 15, 19, 20, 21. B array is 2, 15, 17, 19, 21, 25, 29, right? It's decently big and generic. The sizes are not the same. And this is what I meant by taking examples that are big and general and also connected to the listening. We made a blunder in array A. Great. State a brute force. Step 3. Now why I have written this is I have seen many people, many interviewees, many candidates, they think that we need to come up with the most efficient approach and they don't even tell the brute force method, right? And what happens many a times is the question is tough. They are not able to basically get the most optimized approach. In fact, the question was, the intent behind the question was not कि सबसे ज़्यादा optimized approach लेके आएगा candidate, but they think कि brute force method तो बहुत ही obvious और terrible है, ये तो नहीं बताना. So after a few minutes, they didn't tell the brute force method. They were not able to come up with any other approach. And for me, as someone who is taking an interview, sounds like कि बिल्कुल नई और basic approach भी नहीं सोच पा रहा है ये candidate, and I'm not going to go ahead with this candidate. So I know that brute force methods are naive, rude, plain, but you need to state your brute force method to safeguard, to tell the interviewer that ये तो मुझे आता ही है. Now I know this is an inefficient method. Let's see step by step if we can optimize it. Right. Keep your communication, keep communicating with the person who is interviewing you. And that's where you need to state the brute force method. Let's look at one of the interviews that I found on YouTube. Let's take a look at the section, a few minutes, and see how did the candidate do in this interview.
Oh, 2D matrix. I cannot understand that part.
Which part? I mean, what do you think is a 2D matrix?
Oh, like the robot is in a 2D matrix. He's starting from a certain index.
So you can see the question that is written. It's the
Yeah, I can
it's
see
a
it. I
robot
scroll to
basically,
the right part.
and you need to
Sorry
check
about
whether
that.
the sequence is circular or
No.
not. The definition
So
of circular is given,
Yeah, robot
and the moves
is
can be
in
made.
a 2D plane. Sure, 2D plane may not be a matrix.
Okay, so he is in a 2D matrix. So initially, what direction is he facing and where is he?
So the candidate is trying to ask clarifying questions.
And
I don't know where he is.
alright, okay, so we don't know that. All right.
It
So
can be anywhere.
okay, so there are no boundaries. So there's not any step which if he goes left and if he keeps going,
Right,
taking a step,
it's an infinite plane.
it's an infinite plane. All right, it's an infinite plane. Yeah.
So trying to ask clarifying questions about the boundaries and all. Okay.
Yeah, I am able to understand the question. Just help me out if I'm right or wrong, right? So I'll just assume that the robot starts at a random place, right? I think I'm going to take the help of a matrix over here.
So he's trying to communicate with the
Let's
interviewer.
not worry about using matrix, using something arrays. Okay, let's worry about without being a programmer or a.
Now here the interviewer is trying to nudge him that don't worry about any fancy concepts. At least tell me the most basic approach one can take in this. At least tell me how the solution would look like. He's trying to nudge, as you can see, ki, let's not worry about this. Let's try to think from the first principle.
Engineer or a developer or a
Mhm.
problem. You're just a problem solver, new guy, not
See?
a new guy, sorry, average guy with no knowledge of computer science. How do you want to approach this? You just passed your class for exam. That's it.
Okay, okay, got it.
Yes.
So I think if I want to see that the robot he got to the same position again, he'll definitely have to move in a circular fashion. So what I mean by that is, suppose the robot he starts from here, right? Uh, he's facing towards the right side of the screen. I'm on the 64th line. I hope you can see them.
I can see that. There's a dash at the 64.
Yeah. So he keeps, say he moves 2 steps here, right? And then he turns up like this and he goes up, say, a couple of steps.
Okay, so you're saying he should be completing a circle, but
Yeah.
there's a cupboard behind you, right? There's a cupboard behind you, right?
Oh, where exactly?
Where in your room.
Oh, yeah. There is.
If you walk to it and walk back, do you think you'll complete
So
the cycle?
the candidate has not even tried to take an example to see, let me take an
You'll not
example and
complete the
see how
circle,
this
but you'll
will
still be in
work,
the
right?
same position.
That's also is why he is facing trouble about thinking about an approach. Right.
Right, absolutely. So another like solution I have, it's not a very good one, but we can just keep marking wherever the robot is going on a matrix, and hopefully the moment we see that the position is already visited, we'll just return true.
Again, he's trying to use terms like matrix and all that. It's fine if you are able to think of an efficient approach, but
Sorry.
he's not able to think.
Sorry, I did not hear you. I was like a bit distracted.
So what I was saying is, suppose the robot is moving like as it is given in the input. We'll just take a 2D matrix and we'll keep marking the position according to where he's going. We'll start somewhere in the middle. So I'm assuming that the borderline conditions would be 10 to the power 5 or 10 to the power 4,
Again,
whatever
talking
they are.
about borderline
We'll start in the
conditions,
middle.
efficiencies,
So we'll start at 10 to the power
optimizations.
2, comma 10 to the power 2. We'll make a matrix of 10 to the power 6 or 10 to the power 7. That is the maximum capacity for C++. So we'll make the maximum capacity. We'll start in the middle and we'll keep marking
So,
wherever the robot is
Almost
going.
6 minutes down, and
And
we are
the
nowhere
moment
near the most
we see
basic
that the position has already been
solution,
encountered.
right? And that's
Or we
almost
just return to-
almost a blunder.
What if he encounters a position where he did not start at? Like he started at position 1
And the interviewer is trying to
position
nudge
2,
him.
and he does a round trip and comes back to position 2.
Yeah, it should work because we are marking along the way every position
Yeah,
the
so
robot is.
it will return true, right?
It will return true.
But
Yeah.
he should have been back to position 1 for this to work, right?
Circular or not? Yeah, pro. He has to circle back to the same position. So we'll have to mark the first position and go through the matrix. And if the first position is encountered
Again,
again,
he has
we'll
not
return
dropped
true,
the idea of
or else
matrix. Matrix
we just return false.
What is?
It's actually fixed space complexity. It'll take 10 to the power 7 or whatever is the it's not dependent on the input. It's
It's
fixed.
not dependent on the input, I agree. But then it's a huge number, right?
It's a very huge number. 10 to the power 6, 10 to the power 7.
Yes, and that will be a matrix. Both sides, rows and columns, both of them will be. So, if let's say the 10 to the power 6 is the order of n, then it's over.
So should I approach this using like something else, like
Yep.
graphs or
So, you should approach this using simple mathematics.
Again, as you can see, the candidate is trying to basically find words that should I approach it using graphs. He has no idea, and the interviewer is trying to nudge that at least go with first simple mathematics. At least tell me that okay, let's imagine that the robot is at 0 0, and with every instruction his coordinate will change, and if he returns back to 0 0, that means basically it's a circular path, and then we can think how to represent 0 0. Is it array, is it queue, whatever is that, and that's what interviewer is trying to nudge, and that's what that should not happen, right? This is a mock interview, and that's why interviewer is taking so much time, 8 minutes to, and even the basic approach has not come down, right? Interviewer should not have to nudge you कि at least मुझे basic approach तो बता दो. Why are you going? I'm telling you not to go with fancy terms. You can go with fancy terms later, but right now what happened? 8 minutes have passed, and the candidate was not able to tell a fancy approach that he was trying to look for, and he was not able to tell the brute force method. He was not ready to think of the simple mathematics approach, and after 8 minutes interviewer has nothing, right? The interviewee didn't even try to say कि अच्छा let the interviewer is telling me कि सबसे simple approach बताओ, maths use करो. He has not even tried using that. He tried thinking in terms of coding, heaps, graphs and all that. So now if you're very confident you are able to think of that kind of approach, go with it. I'm not asking you to dumb down your approach, but if not that, reverse. Go with the most basic approach. Start with an example and see, try to keep communicating, and that's what you should do. The interviewer should not have to nudge you, bata do, bata do, bata do. So I hope you are able to understand why brute force method is very important, why you should able to approach the solution at least by telling brute force method. Right? And then you can go with optimizations. Use yourself state key. Okay, this is going to solve our problem, but this is not the best way. Let's see how can we optimize it. Try to look for any unused information. Right? Try to use a different example. Okay, let me try to take a different example and see if I can think of a different approach by using a different example. If you're getting stuck, right? Try to basically see what all probabilities exist. Try to basically see is there a duplication here, right? Sometimes one single operation is running over over basically different syntaxes, and that should not have happened, right? So make sure you are optimizing it after, like try to make space trade-off. Try to see basically can you store data in a different data structure. Maybe using a hash table will make it more efficient, right? So these are all the things that you have studied, but try to use them to optimize it. Right. For example, if someone is asking you, giving you a number 9 and asking you with all the sets, right, a comma b of natural numbers, whose sum will be 9, right? So rather than saying that, okay, let us pick A and B and running loop over whether A plus B makes 9 or not, right? This is the brute force method. But you can actually pick A, right? And finding B by 9 minus A, right? This will avoid duplication. Or you can again optimize it. Basically, there are again some steps that are getting duplicated. That's how you optimize. But the brute force method is we'll pick two natural numbers, both are less than 9, right? And we'll run loop within loop to see which A plus B is 9. Again, I'm taking a very simple example, but I hope you got the gist. एक बार आपने ऑप्टिमाइजेशन कर लिया, नाउ ट्राई टू बेसिकली walk through the pseudocode, right? Okay, these are the segments, we'll do this, we'll write the search arrays, find the biggest, we'll insert in heap, the brief logic, right? Make sure you are sort of writing comments and then you can start coding, right? You can ask the interviewer whether we should start coding, or interviewer will guide you that, okay, no, can you try to basically do it in another way? Or if he feels everything is right, he'll ask you to code, right? Now the coding here is basically try to basically write a beautiful code within that time, right? Beautiful code means try to write good variable names, right? Try to tell them that you are comfortable with the language that you are using. Beautiful code is just a way to show your comfort with the language, to give the interviewer confidence कि आपने इस language पे पहले काम किया हुआ है, and then you can test and run whatever you want, whatever the interviewer is asking you. So these are the steps that people take for in interviews. Now let's see one another example. This example is great in terms of that the interview has cracked the most efficient approach. But in this mock interview that I picked from YouTube, you will see how he is communicating, how he's writing the code, how beautiful his code is, right? How he's able to explain what he's about to do. So great example. It's a bit long, but we'll try to watch the first 10 minutes, I think 12 minutes. And some things that we'll see that even this candidate could have improved. Okay, great.
Having the further time for all things that is the registration, the task is to find the minimum number of platforms required.
So the problem statement is that there are trains that coming, arrival times are given, departure times are given, and you have to basically return a value of number of platforms that would be required, right? As you can see, one thing is the ideal situation would have been for the interviewee facing the interviewer, right? Which is not happening in this case. So make sure if you are an interviewer, you are facing the interviewer. Is reading through the problem, the interviewer is waiting. Now
So will this arrival and departure time always be sorted in the ascending order?
see, he's asking to try clarifying question that, okay, I can see in the example they are sorted, but is this just an example or will they always be sorted, right?
Like in chronological order?
No. So if you say departure time is not in sorted order, right?
So he's pointing out that departure time is not actually sorted, right? So this may sound like a dumb question that he has not paid enough attention, but it happens in interviews. But at least he asked rather than assuming that they will be sorted and going for the solution.
Okay. For the starting, maybe let's assume that it's in sorted manner. Okay, and go ahead.
Again,
we
the
can,
interviewer has said, let's assume that it is sorted, because the interviewer is trying to understand your thinking process, how you think about a solution. Their aim is not to make your life difficult. Their aim is to see whether you can think of. It's good that you're asking about these questions.
Any brute force approach or anything that you
Right?
think,
Any brute force approach.
Sorry.
Herself is asking for any brute force approach. And now he's taking time to think of a brute force approach or any approach, right? Though his approach will be the most efficient approach. But see how he's trying to communicate.
And you try to map an arrival and departure time, right? And let's say if this train comes at 9 and let's this departs at 9:10, and let's say there is another train that comes in between the arrival and departure.
So he's taking example, right? Let's say there's another train, right? And that's how he's trying to think of a solution, a great way.
then I need to allocate another platform, right? But if so, basically, if there is an intersection, so let's say this is the train one,
See?
it is coming at this time, and let's say it is leaving at this particular time, and let's say another train comes at this intersection of.
He's trying to go work a solution by taking an example, a great approach.
And let's say this train 3 comes over here, then I will require another platform.
Yes.
But let's say when
I
I
will need
train one
another
will
platform.
pass, then I can like release that platform so that if let's say another train comes, I can give him the platform for the train one, right?
Correct.
So
Correct.
I think we can maintain a sort of counter over here. Like let's say if some train is arriving, we can increase the counter or the number of platforms, right? And if a train is leaving that particular platform, then we can do a counter of that number of platform minus, right? And what we can do is we can keep a track of the maximum count of the number of.
Again, as you can see, how effortlessly he's not using any fancy language, any fancy terms. The only term he has used is counters, right? And through his example, he has now come to an approach that he'll be using, and in a very conversational tone.
And that will be good enough for give us an answer, right? So now what we can do is basically, so this is sort of like let's see if it is sort of.
Now he's thinking of basically how
Okay,
to
also,
formalize it.
I think what we have to do is we have to sort, like we have to keep like the arrival of a departure timeline in a same timeline, like grabbing the same array. Like maybe we need to concatenate these two arrays and sort it into marks or something. When that instead of directly putting it on an array and then sorting it all together, let's do a merging of these two arrays, right? But first, I think we need to sort these emoji arrays. Otherwise, I won't be able to merge it.
Now going through step by step what
Then
we'll need to do first, second, and
we
third.
can
Has
do a
not even
merging
started
operation.
coding yet.
Like
Good.
basically kind of merging these two sorted arrays, right? And then we can apply this algorithm that I just said over here. Something like that.
Okay. Can you think of any other approach other than merging? Because I think you can still do it without merging in a easier way.
Without merging.
Now here the interviewer is thinking that he has made the
So,
solution
like, my idea
complicated.
right now is to bring
Right.
the
But you will see what happens here is that
these
they
two
are
arrays
both
in one
using
place
the terms
and to
a
sort
bit
it as a
differently.
whole, right? So then only I will be able to get this timelines, because I need to check, like when I'm getting this input, right? I need to get input on the basis of time. It can be anything. It can be arrival time or departure.
Like you have to just know that arrival times are sorted and departure times are sorted, right? So once those two are separately sorted, why do you need to merge them?
What I was saying is, let's say first of all, like I'm assuming over here, like as like the
So
departure time
here
is
you will
sorted,
see
arrival
that
time is
the
sorted, right? Or
merging,
maybe I
the
can sort
context
it
of merging that the candidate was using or the interviewer was using were different, and that's where the
But
confusion
yeah,
is.
by
Yeah.
merging, what I'm thinking is,
But it's good that they have
like,
discussed
I
it out.
We can see, and if we can improvise.
So this should be, I think, one login, obviously, and then merging it will be requiring, go
Of strings. Or let's make things easier. You know what? Let's do. Let's keep it an array of integers, and like
Now they are
so
discussing
remove the colon
about
from
how
there, and
the
you can
input
just
and output
take it
should
as
be
9,
a
10,
good way to
940,
think,
950, like
right?
that.
Because
But like,
it matters.
will it be?
How
can
are
I
you taking
consider
the
that
input? How are you
in
taking the
minutes or
output?
seconds, or will be till 900?
And
Like,
that's why the
how will it
interviewer
match
is quite
that?
impressed that the candidate is actually
No.
talking about, asking
So how
about
you
when
can
to
take
take
it as
interviews, how to
so
take
the last
inputs.
two digits will be seconds anyway,
See?
right? Now there can be 1 digit left or 2 digits left for that.
9201.
So this is invalid format because the it can't be 9301,
Right, right.
right?
Okay, so starting from the back, I will take the last two digits as minutes, not seconds, sorry, as minutes, and then the
Yes,
next
yes,
will be,
minutes. Hours. Yes, correct.
Maybe we can, in order to make sorting a bit easier, I can convert that into just minutes so that the sorting will be easier. Will that
Now he's starting to basically first work on the input, how he'll convert. He has decided that he'll convert them into minutes so that he can sort. Right now, he's trying to basically write that first, and then the algorithm that was discussed. Uber taking an example, he'll try to work that out. Right now, here the comfort is coming that this person has really great comfort with the language, using data types like long and all that. Right. So that
That's
you can
okay.
see.
Don't worry about the
Right.
caps and
Though basically the
indentations.
interviewer is asking him not to worry, but he is trying to he's trying to show her that I'm a perfectionist and I worry about it and it will not take me a lot of time. Right. Just let me get the hang of it. Right. Here, if you see that when he's writing this code, he stays silent for almost 2 minutes. This is not something you should do. Right. I know people can be comfortable being silent while they are coding, but at least try after every few seconds, just keep the conversation engaged, saying that, okay, this is what I'm doing right now, this is what I'm doing right now, this is what I'm doing right now. He's doing everything beautifully. As you can see, he's writing comments that I'll do this, I'll do this, I'll do this, and then I'll write code. Awesome code, done beautifully, but make sure that your interviewer is just not sitting there silently. Keep him engaged, keep her engaged, tell them this is what I'm trying to do. Right. So do not take long pauses. Right. And if you see that he eventually wrote a beautiful code, very optimized code and all that, and that's how a beautiful code looks like. Great. So this is what you have to do. Right. This was a great example of basically how to approach a coding interview. Right. He started with basically describing a problem, asked for clarification, took an example, took her through the approach that will work the best in his mind, talked about input methods, right? Wrote the pseudocode that, okay, I'll do this, I'll do this, I'll do this as comments, started writing the code, wrote a beautiful code, and everything went well. The only thing that could have gone a bit better was that 2 minute silence phase that was there. But again, if you have done everything else right, that does not matter. But it's always an improvement that you can do. So this is what you have to do. Now the quintessential question, right? What should you do when you get stuck? There are cases when we get stuck, right? So first thing is obviously keep your calm. I'm sure it's quite nerve-wracking. Kya hoga, kya hoga, kya hoga, kya hoga. Right? There are some things that you can do actually. When you get stuck, go back to an example. Right? Change your example. Tell that, oh, this is not working. Let me see if this can work with a different example. Try a different data structure. Maybe that will help. Right? Consider the less commonly used aspect of language. Maybe the language that you are using has some issues in that. But make sure whenever you are getting stuck, you are communicating continuously with the interviewer. I got stuck. This example, conditionally this algorithm is not working. Let me try to see if I can get to a different algorithm by taking a different example. Right. Start from the right. The interviewer will allow you some time. Again, go through it for at least once, if not twice. Right. Make sure you are not giving up at the first obstacle. No interviewer wants to see कि आपने हाथ खड़े कर दिए कि मेरे से तो नहीं हो रहा. Right. Even if after the first try you are not able to get to a right answer, say that I'm not able to work this out right now. I'm really sorry about this. Maybe we can go through if it's whether you can allow me more time, or we can basically go to the second problem and visit this later. Right. Again, you are in a tough position. You got stuck somewhere. There is no ideal solution here. The only ideal solution here is to show the interviewer that you still can keep calm. You have a learning attitude. You do not give up easily. That's the only ideal output from this condition. Other considerations you can do when you're getting stuck is talk about, okay, best conceivable runtime, right? Talk about, okay, these are the incorrect answers are coming, we can handle them separately, right? Think about basically uh, whether you have heard a similar question, or maybe you can ask the interviewer that can we relax this parameter, can we relax this condition or not, right? Ultimately, the idea is don't give up, right? Obviously, the interviewer says that let's move on. Say that I can understand that we have a time constraint, right? Let's move on and we can revisit this question. I'll ask you to revisit this question if after solving other questions we still have time. That will show that you are not giving up on this. You still want to crack this, but you also understand time constraints. To summarize this slide, the idea is that always show your fighting spirit no matter what happens. Some phrases that you can use, more on the English side. I think I'm stuck here. Do you have any ideas on what I could have missed? Keep communicating, right? I wonder if there are any edge cases that I didn't cover. How could I have done it better? I'm sure there's a better approach to tackle this and all that, right? So, to summarize what we discussed today is, I think this chart summarizes it well. The first thing, takeaway of the lecture is understand the interviewer is trying to see where your thought process, your problem solving approach, your mindset. He's not trying to look for immediate answers or all perfect answers. One. Second, make sure that you are taking examples, you are telling the brute force the most inefficient method to solve that problem at least, and then you are going towards the optimized approach. If you knew the brute force method and you didn't tell that to the interviewer and you were not able to think of any other approach, you are going to be in trouble, right? Does that mean कि आपको efficient approach पता थी but आप पहले brute force पता और फिर efficient approach पता? No. But if you are not able to, don't start thinking of the most efficient approach first. Try, as that mock interview showed, try to work out through an example. If that example leads you to a good approach, good. If that example is leading you to a brute force method, good, not bad. Try to make sure that you're covering generic examples and not specific examples as we saw. Follow this chart and you would be able to crack your tech and coding interviews. English, keep it simple, keep it communicative. Make sure you are not making mistakes in past tense. Make sure you are not mixing present tense and past tense. That's all what is required and not fancy English. If you believe कि सब कुछ कर लिया, you have done everything, then you can obviously go with the fancy English. You can try to improve your English, but that's not what interviewer is looking for in the first place. It's not a critical thing. If you are making mistakes in basic sentence structure, you are not showing confidence, that is definitely we have covered. You need to work on it. The last one, if you're getting stuck, make sure you're showing a fighting spirit. Rework your example, change your approach, and show the interviewer that you are a fighter. So I hope this lecture would help a fresher cracking, making his coding interview the best that is there and getting the best out of the tech round. Best of luck.